How can anyone, whether they want to work in a language school or privately from their own laptop anywhere in the world, create a rewarding and impactful career teaching English as a second language, even if they are just starting out or have no teaching experience or ability? Hi, my name is Lynette Kim, and here on the TESOL Talk podcast, I aim to answer that very question.
A question I've been asked before is, why do I need to do a TESOL course in order to teach English when English is my native language? And it's a really good question, because you would think to yourself, surely you could just go and chat and talk to people and teach English that way because you already speak the language, and that should be enough. Well, there are a number of really good reasons why that's not the case. And looking back in the past, when we had an era of backpackers who were traveling around Asia, not with TESOL courses, but just, they might have been university graduates or whatever, but or just people who wanted to travel. These people were teaching lessons at the time, like say 30 years ago. They were getting jobs and teaching lessons, but they didn't know what they were doing, and they didn't know how to put together proper materials, and also they didn't have training in the 6 ESL levels from beginner to advanced. They didn't know about the processes of how a second language is learnt, second language acquisition. They weren't aware of TESOL methodology and the approaches that you use in the classroom in order to help students. And so all of this meant that they did, and apart from that, they didn't have an understanding at each level. What body language would you use to communicate to a beginner, an elementary level student, a pre-intermediate, all the way up to an advanced level student? How do you break down your speech and your enunciation, the words that you use, your vocabulary to communicate well with these students? How do you understand what they're capable of that level and what you need to teach them or help them with in order to get them to take the leap to the next level? All of these things are vitally important, because if you don't have an understanding of just these basics, then you're not able to teach progressive lessons properly and help students to advance. And students know this, they can feel it. They're going to a lesson and it's not really going anywhere, and each lesson tends to be a continuation of the same type of thing as the previous lesson. And so this backpacker era came to an abrupt ending when schools became aware that these teachers that were doing the ESL teaching really didn't know what they were doing. And it brought in an era where students had to have special training. They had to have teaching English as a second language certificates, or TEFL, TESOL, all of those. They had to have a teaching English as a second language certificate in order to get a job, because schools overseas started to recognize that there was this huge gap between teachers' abilities. And so that's when TESOL certificates became a thing. And this is why a course is so needed. Now schools are well aware, and not just aware that that the people that are teaching need to have some training, but the training needs to be quite specific. So overseas schools and online schools are looking for students who've done a TESOL course that is over 100 hours. So the very minimum they really accept is around 140 hours, but generally 200 hours is what's preferred. So you've got a course that has enough weight in the learning, the amount of learning that's done. But it's not just that, because any school or any course can give you a whole bunch of readings and say, hey, there's 200 hours, have fun. But it's not that. It's also that the standards that are within a TESOL course, like TESOL methodology, so you understand how to approach the classroom, how to have communicative lessons, all of these things. Schools are looking for teachers who know and understand this, and they will ask questions related to this type of thing or they'll get you to do a demo lesson as part of your job application. So it's going to show whether you know and are able to apply these skills and this knowledge. So another reason for having your TESOL training is schools are also looking for students who have some practical experience. Now, how do you get this? You've just done a TESOL certificate, and the majority of TESOL certificates out there, they just give you the training, you do videos, you'll do a lot of readings, you'll answer quizzes and assessments, and that's all good, that's necessary, but they don't often have a live teaching practice, and particularly one where it's with real ESL students in a school situation, and that practice is also observed by someone who is qualified in TESOL and also assessed, so given feedback. So these are very important issues, and schools hiring people to be ESL teachers, that's what they're looking for.
Hi, it's Lynn here. I hope you're enjoying this episode of TESOL Talks. I just want to let you know that if you're interested in teaching English as a second language, the best way to get started is by getting your TESOL certification. And I recommend a TESOL Australia course because, well, I wrote them. I put everything that I wished I had been taught when I was first teaching into the TESOL Australia courses, along with a lot of other information and training. If you have any questions or you need someone to help you figure out a plan to create a rewarding and impactful career teaching English as a second language, simply go to our website, tesolau.com. That's TESOLAU.com, and fill in the inquiry form to get professional advice on your goals and exact situation. Now let's get straight back to the episode.
So if you've done a certificate that's short and like very cheap and low hours and no teaching practice, schools are going to look at that and go, you know, these people don't have experience, they don't have full training. So you really need to be careful, and that's why doing a TESOL course is so important, but also doing one that covers all of these necessary areas. And when you go for your first job interview or your first job, you're not going as someone who's green, you're not going as someone inexperienced. You've gone through those processes and you've taught. Even the teaching online is perfectly fine because a lot of jobs are online, and now a lot of teaching practices are online. So that is totally fine. It doesn't have to be face-to-face in the classroom any longer. But the fact is it needs to be observed and assessed by someone who's completely qualified. And this is why you need a TESOL certificate, not just a TESOL certificate, but a good quality one, because schools are looking for teachers that are really good, really motivated, care about what they're doing. And if you haven't done a TESOL course, then obviously you're just looking, in their minds, you're just looking for a way to earn some money, but you're not invested in having the knowledge and skills to do the job well and to be the type of person that will go on and do ongoing development and really become a great teacher, because schools want to hire great teachers. They want teachers that are going to stay with them for years and years. They don't like having to rehire. They hate when teachers go because, you know, students get involved with their teachers. They love their teachers, whether it's children or adults. Students tend to follow teachers. So it's really bad for schools if they have a really good teacher who gets offered a better position somewhere else and they leave, because students are all like, oh no, I want to follow that teacher. So it's something that they're very wary of. So when you think about the question about why do you need a TESOL course? You need it because you need the knowledge and the skills. You need it because you want to have that practical experience in order to get the job, and you need it to do it well. And the other important thing too is burnout. Now, I've actually seen teachers who have not done a TESOL course and they come in and apply for jobs and they think that they can just wing it. And particularly overseas, you get this happening where you've got, you know, native English speakers in a foreign or an Asian country and they think they can just walk in and get a job. And I've seen one particular teacher in one instance where he came in and he was given the task to teach a 90-minute conversational class. And he was a bit of an older gentleman. I'll give him that. I think he would have been like in his mid 60s from how he looked. He could have been younger, but he did look that little bit older. But he came in and he actually just talked to the class for 90 minutes. It was like almost 100% teacher talk time. And he came out into the staff room afterwards and he said, "That's ridiculous." He goes, "I was told this is a conversation class, but how can I hold up a conversation with a group of people for 90 minutes?" And because he didn't have TESOL training, he had no concept of what he was doing there. It wasn't him that was supposed to talk for 90 minutes. It was the students. He was supposed to facilitate through his lesson their communication in pairs and groups for 90 minutes. He was there to guide and to help the students, not talk at them. So without proper TESOL training, these things that you take for granted become something very big in the ESL classroom. So yes, you do need a TESOL course. You do need training. You do need to understand what and how to teach the language that you have that is so sought after, English as a second language.